Today at 6, 11 Conservatives started the race to become our next Prime Minister. Now there are just 2 left. Tory MPs have chosen Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss to face a final vote by Conservative Party members. What are they offering?
The question now for our members is, who is the best person to defeat Keir Starmer and the Labour Party at the next election? I believe I'm the only candidate who can do that.
I'm the person who can go into number 10, I can hit the ground running and I can get things done. And I think that's what colleagues have voted for, and that's what I now want to take to Conservative members around the country.
Hasta la vista, baby. Thank
you. One of them will replace Boris Johnson in number 10. It was his last appearance at Prime Minister's Questions.
Also on the programme, as inflation hits a 40-year high, I'm in Derby, where we'll be reporting on how the local community is feeling the impact. Higher food and petrol prices have pushed the latest inflation figure to 9.4%.
If the prices do continue to rise, as it is predicted, I don't know what we'll do. It doesn't seem feasible for us at the moment to actually be able to support ourselves.
Putting out the fires of climate change. Yesterday was the London Fire Brigade's busiest since the Second World War. And achieved that feat was nearly 40 years ago.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, England manager Serena Wiegman tests negative for COVID and will be in the dugout ahead of their quarter-final match against Spain.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC's News at 6. Conservative Party MPs have had their say. They've chosen 2 of their number to face a final hurdle in the race to become our next Prime Minister. The day started with 3 candidates vying for the top job: Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss and Penny Mordaunt, who got the lowest number of votes on 105. That means she's out, leaving the former Chancellor and the Foreign Secretary. Those 2 now have about 6 weeks to persuade Tory party members that they have what it takes to lead the country. Now, the Conservatives don't release membership numbers, but it's thought about 160,000 people will have a postal vote. The result of that ballot is due on the 5th of September. Whoever gets the most votes becomes the leader of the Conservative Party and will replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. So what do Mr Sunak and Ms Truss stand for? Here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
Let me introduce you to some of those who'll decide who our next Prime Minister will be. We're in the Queen's Head in Chesham in Buckinghamshire with some Conservative Party members. This town and those around it have been Tory for eons, but were repelled by Boris Johnson at a by-election a year ago.
Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss will be the candidates going forward to a final ballot of Conservative Party members.
The question now for our members is, who is the best person to defeat Keir Starmer and the Labour Party at the next election? I believe I'm the only candidate who can do that.
I'm the person who can go into number 10, I can hit the ground running and I can get things done. And I think that's what colleagues have voted for, and that's what I now want to take to Conservative members around the country.
What do you make of it?
Well, I'm quite happy with the process. I think we've got 2 fantastic final candidates.
I think in particular promises are cheap, and I'm wanting to hear a candidate that is honest about the trade-offs that the country is facing.
Liz Truss, I think, is very good for the kind of right wing of the party, but I also think Rishi Sunak has done a good job as well. So I think you need to go in with an open mind to the hustings.
You're Conservative Party members, but you are making a decision on behalf of the whole country.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we recognise as a party, but also as an individual member having agency to make a vote, that these votes need to connect with absolutely everybody, not just ourselves.
What do we know about the 2 finalists to be our next Prime Minister? The former Chancellor Rishi Sunak became an MP in 2015. He voted leave in the EU referendum and has said he wants to cut taxes, but only when inflation is under control. The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss was first elected in 2010. She became a cabinet minister in 2014 and voted Remain in the EU referendum, but rapidly became an enthusiast for Brexit. She is promising immediate tax cuts. But Boris Johnson is not quite done yet. Today was his final Prime Minister's question time.
This week, Mr. Speaker, probably, certainly will be my last PMQs from this dispatch box.
The Labour leader said he wished Mr. Johnson and his family the best, but his government was a failure.
Mr. Speaker, inflation is up again this morning and millions are struggling with the cost of living crisis. And he's decided to come down from his gold wallpapered bunker for one last time.
And the Scottish National Party reckon he's accelerated the prospect of Scottish independence.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister in his capacity as Minister of the Union for driving support for independence to new heights.
And these were Boris Johnson's final words, and perhaps the last ones we'll ever hear of him in the House of Commons.
The last few years have been the greatest privilege of my life, and it's true that I helped to get the biggest Tory majority for 40 years and a huge realignment in UK politics, Mr. Speaker. We've transformed our democracy and restored our national independence, as my right honourable friend says. Mission largely accomplished. For now, I want to thank everybody here and hasta la vista, baby. Thank you.
A standing ovation from his own side at least, although you'll notice his predecessor Theresa May was a little less than a coiled spring in getting to her feet. As Boris Johnson leaves the Commons, so too does the contest to replace him, as it shifts to the country, or at least Conservative members in the country, tasked with choosing who comes next. And what a responsibility they now face. Now, Liz Truss, until today, was forever third in this contest, standing on the trapdoor of failure, and yet tonight she is widely seen as the favourite to become our next Prime Minister. So that voting will start soon among Conservative Party members, and at the beginning of September it will either be Prime Minister Truss or Prime Minister Sunak. The political weather changes quickly.
Chris, thank you very much. And you can get more on the Conservative leadership race and what each candidate stands for on BBC News Online. That's, of course, on bbc.co.uk/news and by using the BBC News app. Now, the latest economic figures out today show another rise in the rate of inflation, putting even more pressure on the cost of living. Rita is in Derby for us, and she's got all the details. Rita.
George, thank you. We are in Derby's Museum of Making this evening, which is on what is widely thought to be the site of the world's first fully mechanised factory, and it's now a World Heritage Site. Manufacturing has remained a key part of this city's economy, and like cities and towns across the UK, businesses and individuals here are feeling the painful effects of a rise in living costs not seen for a generation. Figures today show the rate of inflation rose to 9.4% last month. That's the highest rate for 40 years, driven by a leap in the price of fuel and also of basic foods like milk, cheese and eggs. Our economics editor Faisal Islam reports now from Derbyshire on the effects of rising inflation.
Now we're going to get some strawberries.
It is the staples, fuel and food going up last month that pushed inflation to a new 40-year high. This is what that means for families in Derbyshire and across the UK. At this community food pantry, they're finding demand rocketing at the same time the surplus supermarket supplies they rely on dwindle.
We're currently shifting about 1.25 tons of food every week. We are certainly thinking that as demand carries on going up, we're going to run out of road in terms of being able to acquire enough food to feed people on that non-profit basis.
We've got chicken, we've got pork, we've got...
And even though here they can supply families with food at 1/10 of the normal price, such as the general inflation crisis that some customers, working people, can no longer afford the bus fare to get here or the electricity to keep food fresh in hot weather.
Well, we've heard of people switching off their fridges and freezers because they can't afford the electricity. And actually that's a really it's a difficult choice to make, but actually it doesn't really save you a lot because the biggest part of your energy bill is the standing charge. Actually, you're not really saving much money and you're risking your own health and that of your family.
now got a job, a really good job. My husband works full time, but things obviously with the cost of living going up, it is tight. We live hand to mouth all the time.
One of my friends told me about it, so I started coming. I was really embarrassed at first, but I don't feel embarrassed about it now.
That is the impact of broad-based, rapidly rising prices in real life. This is what it looks like over decades. A 40-year high of 9.4% and heading higher, 10 to 11% in the autumn, with food prices up 9.8% overall, butter alone up 22%. Fuel prices were up 42% and energy prices up 70% over the last 12 months. Derby is a city famous for manufacturing. The Bank of England governor last night warned that a specific UK factor, labour shortages, threaten to keep inflation higher for longer. At this cutting-edge carbon fibre factory supplying Formula One cars and fighter jets, they are seeing just that.
We will train and develop in this industry, and they're well-paid long-term jobs, I hope.
And are you finding yourself picking up labour from other sectors?
We are picking them up from hospitality and care and that kind of area where they're predominantly lower payment areas, and they can come to us for higher pay.
Higher prices for energy and a weaker pound is seeping into a pipeline that will last many months.
And this has gone up in price by 50-60% in the last 6 to 9 months.
What, energy, currency?
Energy, currency.
One of the first steps in trying to get this under control could be raising interest rates by 0.5%, the largest rise in nearly 3 decades. But energy prices are due to rise again in autumn, pushing inflation yet higher. Faisal Islam, BBC News in Derby.
Well, the figures that Faisal was talking about are sobering, and we've seen there the sort of pressure that people are under here in Derby as throughout the UK. Our Midlands correspondent Navtej Johal has been speaking to 3 families in Derby who are in very different financial circumstances, but whose lives are all directly affected by rising prices.
It angers me that anybody is expected to live like this.
I mean, we don't make huge amounts of money, but we make enough to get us by.
I really don't know what we're going to do. I think we'll really struggle to make ends meet.
One city, 3 people, all counting the cost of living. These stories are from Derby, but they reflect the struggle everywhere. Abby is disabled and lives with her parents, who are pensioners.
And we've had to cut down to 1, maybe 2 showers a week each because our electric bill has been phenomenal.
The 31-year-old needs to travel to London for vital medical appointments, but the rising cost of fuel is making it more difficult.
My fear is that I won't get to my London appointments. And that's really scary. I won't be able to afford some of the medications I have to pay for myself. We'll get through it, but right now I'm not sure how.
Across the city, Calwinder and his family are in a very different place.
Our financial situation, I would say we're comfortable.
He works for an auction house and his wife is a copy editor. They're not struggling, but they are feeling the squeeze.
A few years ago we might not have given it a second thought as to how much we spend on takeaways or anything like that, or how much we spend on food or going out. But these days it's more a case of we really need to tighten our purse strings.
This Midlands city feels like a fairly accurate measure of the state of the nation. Not only is Derby in the middle of the country geographically, it's also roughly in the middle in many other ways when compared to the rest of the UK. Unemployment here is currently 6%, just above the national average. Weekly pay isn't far below the rest of the UK. And when it comes to life satisfaction in the city, it more or less mirrors the rest of the country. Life is getting harder. Neve and Melu are young parents cutting back on everything for their baby. Melu is the sole earner and they're facing difficult choices.
So if the prices do continue to rise, as it is predicted, I don't know what we'll do. It doesn't seem feasible for us at the moment to actually be able to support ourselves and our child.
Their worries are the same as many families who are finding things tough already, but no respite is expected in the months ahead. Naftej Johal, BBC News, Derby.
And you can hear more from Navtej in Derby on the podcast 5 Minutes On, Counting the Cost of Living, as well as on the BBC News website. Well, Faisal Islam is with me. Faisal, how long is this pain likely to continue for people?
Well, what the figures today show, indeed, just walking around this city, what it shows is that the inflation is everywhere, from factory to food bank. And if we just focus on one industry close to the heart of this city, the car industry, major car manufacturer, of course, what you get is you get the first wave of this inflation came a year ago. You saw that in the used car market, massive increases in those car prices. That's now come back again. So that's maybe a source of hopefulness in this current situation. But at the same time, it takes time for inflation to filter everywhere. So what people booking their holidays will have noticed is that car hire prices are through the roof because of the earlier shortage of availability of cars. And not just that, elsewhere in the Midlands today, we're hearing about double-digit settlements for pay in the car industry too. So you see all elements just in that one industry. And so what we're learning today is it's not just energy prices, so this will last for many months to come.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Well, that is it from Derby for now. But just to let you know that the BBC will be broadcasting from different parts of the UK over the next few months, talking to local communities about how they are dealing with rising costs. I'll be here again at 10, but now it's back to George in London.
Rita, thank you. And the time is very nearly 17 minutes past 6. Our top story this evening. There are just 2 MPs left in the contest to replace Boris Johnson as Conservative leader and Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss.
And coming up, I'm in Brighton, where England face Spain in the quarterfinals of the Women's Euros, hoping to reach the semis for the 4th time in consecutive major tournaments.
Coming up in Sports Day in the next 15 minutes on the BBC News channel, golf civil war takes another twist with Henrik Stenson set to join the Rebel Live series. The Swede's been stripped of the Ryder Cup captaincy.
The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, says the capital's fire service had its busiest day since the Second World War yesterday, as it dealt with blazes in record-breaking temperatures. The city was one of 15 areas around the UK to declare a major incident. One of the most serious fires was in Wennington, East London, where several houses were destroyed. Daniel Sanford reports.
Daybreak this morning revealed the devastation wreaked by the fire in Wennington on the far east edge of London. Homes, cars, businesses, all consumed by flames that had appeared almost out of nowhere in the blistering heat of yesterday afternoon. London's fire brigade had been stretched to the limit.
It was incredibly busy, incredibly challenging. People were physically exhausted after an incredibly hard day. That continued throughout the night, and we had resources throughout the night planning for the next few days as well to make sure that we've got all the cover and resources we need.
But it was not just Wennington. This was Dagenham, just down the road, where a fire swept in from a nearby park.
Wait for my house, there's a fire. And it's got gas thing and we have to...
This afternoon we could see prefab houses that had apparently melted in the heat. Around a small close, several homes had been completely destroyed. It had been a terrifying sight.
It was just pitch black. You just couldn't see anything. You could see the fire and you could hear the popping, and everyone was running. The cars were just trying to get out because the police said, you know, everyone needs to get out now. So I thought, oh. And then when I ran back, I looked back and I just kept hearing the popping, just seeing things just coming over here. It was really, really like what you see in the film.
The devastation was so bad here in London that the mayor said the fire brigade had had its busiest day since the Second World War. Today London was still burning, with fresh blazes like this one in Woolwich breaking out. Firefighters have difficult days ahead. Beyond the capital, the village of Brancaster Staithe in Norfolk saw 5 homes burnt down. There were several bad fires elsewhere in the county too, including in the village of Ash Hill. Fire engines were sent to Norfolk from all over England. The day also revealed the extent of the damage to a nursery in Milton Keynes, where all the children and staff had been quickly evacuated before the fire took hold. Daniel Sandford, BBC News.
Well, joining me now is our climate editor, Justin Roller. Justin, naturally enough, we're hearing people talking about the here and now, but this is a long-term issue, isn't it?
Well, I think what we've had in the last couple of days, George, is a glimpse into Britain's climate future. If the world fails to tackle climate change, temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius could become part of a fairly normal summer, according to climate scientists. Now, we know why this is. We know the science. It's worth repeating, though. As we burn fossil fuels, we produce greenhouse gases. They trap heat in the atmosphere, raising global temperatures. And as temperatures rise, heat waves become more frequent and they also become hotter. Take a look at what's been happening in Europe for evidence of the kind of extreme heat we could have here in the UK by the end of the century. So that tells us why cutting greenhouse gases is so important. But I think it also points to the need to adapt the way we live and work. So Network Rail today said it was reviewing the resilience of the railways in light of all the closures that have been in the last couple of days. But the truth is many aspects of our daily lives are going to have to change as temperatures continue to rise.
Justin, thanks very much. Now, women in England live, on average, 4 years longer than men, but spend more of their time in poor health. Now, the NHS in England is launching a new strategy to improve healthcare for women. The plans include more specific training for medical students and extra courses for existing doctors. The aim is to widen access to IVF treatment, boost cancer screenings and introduce one-stop clinics. Catherine Burns reports.
They say some people open up to their hairdresser more than they do to their close friends. That's definitely true for Zoe Trafford and her clients.
Most of the time, I'm the agony aunt, but now they're having to listen to me and my problems.
Zoe has had endometriosis since she was a teenager. It can cause severe pain and heavy bleeding. For years, though, doctors told her she just had bad periods.
You'll be all right, it's just normal. Yeah. And it's not normal. Well, I don't think being in pain is normal.
I just used to have periods that would last for months and months on end. And it's just like you, just told her it's unlucky.
See, that's just not fair, is it?
No.
So part of the uterus is coming out, yeah.
Coming out?
Yeah.
Oh my word, you poor thing.
Do you feel like you've been given enough options by the doctors?
No, not really.
Let's face it, it's like you've either got a vagina or a voice. You don't seem to have both, do you?
No, you're right.
This sense of women's voices not being heard came through loud and clear when the government asked for views on women's health in England. To give you some context, recent consultations like this had fewer than 7,000 responses. This one had almost 100,000. This strategy aims to improve health outcomes for women and girls of all ages, so everything from periods to perimenopause and beyond. There's a plan for better access to IVF, recognition of baby loss during pregnancy, encouraging more women's health hubs. What there isn't is a lot of new money.
The Women's Health Strategy is important because it shows just how vital women are to the UK and the importance of getting the management of their health right. I am, however, concerned that there should be a better and clearer element of funding for the strategy and its delivery.
There's a question too about the timing, just as we're about to get a different Prime Minister. Not a problem, says the new Health Secretary.
There is real momentum across Parliament on this issue. It was championed by both of my previous predecessors as Secretary of State. It's been an early priority for me.
This isn't the first women's health strategy in the UK. Scotland's plan came out last year. Wales has had a women's health implementation group for 4 years. Northern Ireland doesn't have a specific strategy.
So are you happy about it?
Back in Liverpool, what's the verdict in the salon?
Although we might wait, I think eventually maybe it will be better. Maybe it'll be better for our daughters and their daughters, you know.
But what about us? What about us?
Our voices are being heard. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Fingers crossed, girls. Yeah?
Catherine Burns, BBC News.
The development of a new nuclear power station on the Suffolk coast has been given the go-ahead by the government. The French energy company EDF will build Sizewell C next to its existing Sizewell B plant. It's expected to provide power for up to 6 million homes. Now, England will face their biggest test of the European Women's Championship when they take on Spain in tonight's quarter-final. Spain have a squad packed full of Champions League winners, but England are on a roll and have the home advantage. Our sports correspondent Natalie Perks is pitchside in Brighton. Natalie.
Well, it is another sellout here tonight. That's if fans can actually get here, because we know there have been some problems on the roads and rails. The distinctly Spanish weather of yesterday has given way to a usual English summer. It's going to be around 19 degrees at kick-off. Big bonus for England. Their Dutch manager, Sarina Wiegman, has recovered from COVID and will be back on the bench. Now, England sauntered through to these quarterfinals, scoring 14 goals, conceding none. But this is the first time they'll have faced a side in this tournament ranked above them, albeit only by one place. Spain, they haven't quite hit their stride yet. They are missing a couple of key players through injury, but as you said, packed with Champions League winners. They were the pre-tournament favourites. England haven't lost on home soil to them, and they're hoping to reach the semi-finals for the 4th consecutive major tournament, George.
Lovely, thank you, and good luck to the team. Now, there was an historic moment for British athletics at the World Championships in Oregon overnight, with Jake Whiteman winning gold in the 1500 metres. He is the first British man to win the world title since Steve Cram in 1983. Our sports correspondent, Andy Swiss, was trackside. Andy.
Yes, George, welcome to Eugene, where I think everyone is still digesting that incredible win by Jake Whiteman. He certainly wasn't the favourite going into the race. In fact, he said afterwards that even he could scarcely believe it. But it was a special day for him and a special day for his family too. Well, what a moment for Jake Whiteman. Just when it mattered, he's produced the performance of his life, and Britain has a new world champion.
I just got a whiff of it in the last lap. I knew if I was there with 200 to go, I was going to do everything I could to put myself in a position to win it, and I was just running for my life that home straight. I never really gave up the confidence that I had the ability to be able to get to this point, so I'm just so glad that I've been able to do what I've dreamed of since I was a kid.
And get this, commentating on the race inside the stadium was none other than his dad, Jeff, who's also his coach. And after Mum Susan dashed up to celebrate, it was soon time for surely his proudest announcement.
Gold medalist and World Athletics champion representing Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
So I've been doing his school sports day since he was about 11, because my wife's been his PE teacher. So we've just taken it to slightly bigger stadia and slightly bigger crowds and slightly bigger medals. It was surreal watching it, because you're thinking, I know that guy. He has a familiar look.
And the joy of the Whiteman family was shared by his teammates back at their base as they cheered his every stride. And Britain's last 1500 metres world champion told me it was richly deserved.
I couldn't be more happy for him. You know, he's one of the nicest guys in the team. He's one of the best athletes that I've watched run middle distances over the years, just because of how he races. It doesn't matter what else he does in the rest of his career, he'll never forget this.
British sport then has a new star. For Jake Whiteman and his family, a quite unforgettable day. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Eugene.
OK, it's time for a look at the weather. Matt Taylor's here, and I see you've got an example of what extreme weather can do there.
Indeed, we're still seeing the sobering impacts of yesterday's fires, George, and the weather really has provided the ideal recipe for the ground to dry out and, of course, those wildfires to thrive. Let's start with the fact that we've had that exceptional heat, of course, and then the rainfall. The rainfall has been sadly lacking this month. Even in the wettest spots across northern Scotland, those numbers should be up to around 60% by this stage in the month. But look, as we sweep our way southwards, we've had precious little rain at all this month. Hence, the ground is getting browner and drying out. And then, of course, that exceptional heat, which has moved off in towards Denmark and Germany. Denmark had their hottest July day on record today. The heat through the rest of the week then confined to the south, but notice how it rebuilds back towards the UK as we head towards the weekend. Not as hot though, but temperatures will rise. Out there this evening, it's still quite humid. A few storms around, potentially parts of the Midlands, East Anglia, the south east. There could be the odd torrential downpour for a while. They will gradually ease off. Still some rain potentially across parts of northern England, fairly showery in nature. But even though it is cooler than recent nights, it's still going to be a warm night. Temperatures 16, 17 degrees in eastern areas, and just think how much our homes and flats have warmed. It's going to take a while for them to cool down. Now, as you go into tomorrow, there is something a little bit more fresh coming our way. High pressure building in from the west. Winds going into a north or northwesterly direction. Plenty of sunshine across western areas, just the odd shower. But lots of cloud for England as we go through tomorrow, producing a few showers here and there. Most, though, will be dry. But crucially, temperatures are continuing to drop. But even with that, 24, 25 degrees, it's still a degree or two higher than we normally expect in July. Friday, again, we've got some dry weather around, but greater chance of some showers starting to build up. The odd heavy, thundery one towards the south. Temperatures drop a little bit further, and then, as I said, into the weekend, we'll see temperatures build once again, getting close to 30 degrees across the south and southeast. George.
Matt, thank you very much. And that's the BBC News at 6 on Wednesday, the 20th of July. You can keep up with all the latest developments on the BBC website. From the 6 team, it's goodbye. The news continues here on BBC One, as now it's time to join our colleagues across the nations and regions for the news where you are. Good night.